Okay. Ready?
Are you recording?
Yeah, it's recording. Okay. Ready?
Okay, ready.
What's your surname?
President.
Presland. Okay. So we're here with Frank Presland at a Grassroot Soccer VCT tournament, and he is a representative from EJF, which is the Elton John Aids Foundation. Frank, thank you so much for coming to Zambia. We are so honored to have you here. And my question for you is, how did EJF start? Like, what was the birth of that project?
The birth of it was that Elton John himself had a number of friends, rather a large number of friends who died of AIDS. That was really during the 80s, and as that wore on, he decided he should do something, and his first step was to set up the Elton John Aids Foundation, firstly in London and then later in the US, to raise money, and at that time to try to alleviate the suffering which came with being diagnosed as HIV positive. That, of course, was the period before the antiretroviral drugs were available, and it was at the period when it was clearly a death sentence. And he was deeply moved by the death of so many of his friends, including the great Queen musician Freddie Mercury.
Yes, Freddie Mercury, absolutely. Who originally is from Stone Town in Zanzibar, and the Mercury House still is there. It's very, very beautiful. But so now, after coming to Zambia and seeing the kind of programs that we put on here, what do you think is the future of HIV, especially being able to get to the youth?
Well, as I say, people used to think that, and there is a lot of truth actually in the fact that if you use condoms, then HIV, the spread of HIV will be considerably reduced. However, there is still going to be that whatever you do, you really have to start at the diagnosis stage. That's my view, and you can positize as much as possible. I know that at various stages abstinence is also encouraged, although I have not seen myself any suggestion that that's been successful. Projects of this kind are of great interest to us because it encourages people to be tested, and the testing is really the start of it, and take the fear factor out of that, and to some extent out of HIV, because it is no longer, so long as people maintain their drugs regime, it's no longer a death sentence it used to be. And I'm delighted to see how many people turn up, how many young people take the test here, and how it encourages not just the players, but also their friends and families also.
And this is small. Like we go bigger than this.
Yeah.
But for you to get here,
I just really have a taste.
Have a taste of it, you know. And this is done regularly. Every single month we have at least 2 to 3 of these. So this is the final question that I have for you. You know, this is a developing country, and this is where a lot of the money and the funding goes to in order to, you know, stop the spread of HIV, at least lower the spread of HIV. What do you think that countries that are fully developed can learn from what's going on here?
The fully developed countries, firstly, the issue in many fully developed countries is about those segments of the population who are outside of the norm. In the USA, for example, there's a very high concentration of HIV/AIDS amongst black prisoners. And our American organisation, for example, has several programs which would not be popularly supported because it's black prisoners with HIV is not an easy sell. But nevertheless, they do a lot of work, particularly in those areas where it's not an easy sell. And you have to look in developed countries at those portions of the community who are at the edges of society. Another group, of course, is intravenous drug users. And there was an uproar, really, at an early stage when EJF in London recognised that a large number of people were being infected with HIV/AIDS because they were sharing needles. And that was the point when we then developed a program of giving out free needles to drug users. And there was a great uproar because people thought this was preposterous, but its effect was dramatically to reduce the spread of HIV amongst that population. So you're sometimes successful through doing unpopular things.
Isn't that how success is born?
Well, sometimes.
Sometimes, right? Well, Frank, thanks so much for being here, and we really
It's my pleasure. It's been great, stimulating and interesting for me.
Yes.
And see all these lovely children as well.
I know, the kids. I feel like
Thank
every
you.
time I come, I find one that I
A little monster.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank
Okay,
you.
good. You do work with prisoners. That's awesome.
Well, in our American organisation.
Why is that a hard sell? Who's not buying it?
Well,
Thank you.